Hi, I'm Kate, and I'm doing something totally thrilling. I'm running away. Just picturing my parents' worried faces makes me smile. Why, you ask? They deserve it for trying to send me, their beloved only daughter, to some disgusting girls' boarding school. Yuck! No parties, the grossest uniform, bossy supervisors, and no hot-muscled guys. Ugh! That place is for nerds, not me. An it girl and the founder of Clique Chic, our school's exclusive group for the hottest, most sought-after girls. To be a part of the club, you must be really fashionable, you know? I'm talking about a wardrobe full of the latest designer must-haves, manicured nails, and the glossiest hair. Only girls as dazzling as us can make the school hallway our catwalk stage. As one of us, your life will be filled with endless parties and super cute jocks fighting for your attention. Studying and homework? That's not our thing. Those loser nerds who are chasing after us will take care of it.
Hey, do you know those people?
I looked outside and saw a group of bodyguards who were yelling and trying to force my cab to stop. Ugh, this was so uncalled for. $500 if you can get rid of them. The driver immediately sped up. Ordinary people will do anything for a little bit of money. He dropped me off at a service station, and I quickly snuck inside and hid in the restrooms. Ew! This place was gross. Gosh, those bodyguards were loitering about outside so no one could leave or enter without them seeing. How tragic. This was so stupid. All my parents needed to do was let me stay at home for the summer. But no, they sent those bodyguards after me to ruin my life. Suddenly, a cubicle door flung open and knocked into me. Ouch! Are you blind? What are those glasses even for? I'm sorry. The girl quickly apologized, then she bent down to pick her fallen stuff up. But when she looked up, I gasped in shock. Holy guacamole! What in the world? She looked exactly like me. I mean, at least her face did. Her style was disgusting and old-fashioned. Ew. But given my dire situation, I came up with an amazing idea. Okay, so this is weird. Do you want to make some money? And I mean a lot of money? She gave me this dumbfounded look. Ew, I hope I didn't get frown lines like she did when I screwed up my face. They were ghastly. I have a really lucrative job for you. As you can see, we have similar faces. Freaky, but fortunate. So I need you to pretend to be me and live my rich life for a month or two. Here's my Twitter account. Just skim through it. You can learn everything about me there. It should be enough for you to play the part and avoid my family's suspicion. And here's your payment. I rifled through my bag and handed her the rest of the cash. Jeez, this must be a huge amount for her, as her eyes lit up like she was seeing money for the first time, and she immediately took it. We quickly exchanged clothes, and as instructed, she went outside to hand herself over to the bodyguards. Freedom! Now bring on one long, hot summer of fun. But first, I have to go shopping. Wearing these old-fashioned, disgusting clothes made me want to puke. Oh no! My parents have locked all of my credit cards! I can't even buy a soya milk iced latte now! Oof! How could my parents be so cruel? The worst part is, I had stupidly given all my cash and my phone to that girl. With no other options left, I reluctantly searched the girl's bag. A few old-fashioned clothes, some stupid books, and an unbranded lipstick? Huh? Was that all? How can people live like this? But, what's this? In her small notebook was a train ticket and an offer letter to work at Homestay Allen. So, looks like she's going there for a summer job. Hopefully that homestay has a bath with scented candles and a pool for me to sunbathe by. I need to work on my tan. I was glad to get off that flea-ridden thing and breathe in some fresh air. Now where was my ride? There was a short, chubby old man holding a board with the name Clara on it. the name on the train ticket was Clara. So this meant he was here for me? Ugh, he didn't even have flowers with him, and he could have at least combed his hair. So, turns out that's Danny, the manager and owner of the homestay. Honestly, if it wasn't for the circumstances, I would never have set foot in this stupid place. Oh, how the day got worse. Without even being allowed to rest my weary feet, Danny gave me work. Housekeeping. It was a joke, wasn't it? My nails were not made for menial jobs. Life here was horrible. I had to get up so stupidly early that it was still dark out, then clean a dozen dusty old bedrooms. After that, I would do the laundry, dry the towels and bedding, fold them, and arrange them neatly into each room. At noon, I also had to help the chef here, Anna, prepare lunch, and I was also forced to wash a mountain of gross dishes. I had never done such silly chores like this at home. Instead, they were always done for me. Didn't expect them to be this exhausting.
You should put them in order, so they won't break.
Ugh, where did this nosy guy come from? Are you lecturing me? I replied crankily and walked away. Suddenly, oh no! This was the 9th time I'd broken stuff since I'd arrived here, and that wasn't counting my poor broken nails. I quickly bent down to clean up, but ouch! I cut my finger on one of the pieces. The guy quickly ran over and bandaged my wound.
Bond, that's my name.
Huh? What's this? Did he just wink at me? My heart was pounding. I mean, he was cute. Yeah, he was really cute. I'm Clara.
Go do something else. Leave this to me.
Realizing that I'd been staring at Bond for a while, I hurriedly got up and rushed to the kitchen.
Nice to meet you, Clara. I'm your new colleague.
Well, that's not so bad. At least I have someone to share my workload with and to chat. The next morning, I was cleaning the floor, half asleep, when Bond came over, put an AirPod in my ear, and winked at me.
Imagine you're dancing. Then you won't feel so tired anymore.
Okay, this sounded kinda lame, but at least no one else was around to see me, so I decided to just go with it. So I gave it a try, with Bond, and I relaxed a little. Well, I didn't expect it to be so much fun. That night, as I was about to turn off the light, I heard a knock at the door. It was Bond. He wanted to show me a secret, so he took my hand and led me to the beach. Yes, we were holding hands, and his hand was really warm. He took me to a sandy beach and shone his flashlight at his feet. Something was moving under the fine white sand. Ew! What was that? I clung to his arm in fear. Aw, little turtles, I exclaimed as they slowly emerged from under the sand.
Yes, they're cute, aren't they? Let's give them a hand. They have to get to the sea before dawn.
I hesitated because I thought this was so stupid.
When the sun rises, they'll be easily spotted and eaten by predators.
Fine. Since Bond pleaded, I had no choice but to sacrifice my sleep to escort the baby turtles to the sea. Why would their mom just abandon her babies like that?
Their mom protected them when they were eggs, and now it's time for them to start fending for themselves. I bet they don't mind. You see, they're all trying their best to crawl towards the sea.
But it was us who helped them.
Then they'll be very grateful to you. And so am I.
Whoa, I'd never felt like this before. It felt like my heart was aching, but in a good way? Thinking about it, I suppose this was the first time I'd ever helped anyone before. Now I kinda understood why my parents did what they did. They just wanted me to be more independent and stop hanging around with those vain, show-off girls. They sure would be pleased if they could see me now, with this sweet and gentle guy. He was the total opposite of the rich boys back home. When I was hurt, he made sure I was okay. He opened my eyes to new experiences, And he didn't try to impress me with dumb flowers and expensive gifts. I've been thinking about Bond all day, and this is the 1001st time I've peeked at him. I think I'll have to confess my feelings before I go crazy. So that evening, after finishing all my work, I knocked on Bond's door. Huh? Why was a teary-eyed Miss Anna standing there? Then she told me the shocking truth. Bond had left without saying goodbye. Panicked, I walked into the room, but there was nothing left of his. Nothing! No! This couldn't be happening! I hadn't even had a chance to confess yet. The next day, I felt so down. It sucked not having Bond here. But then in my zombie state, I accidentally picked up the newspaper at the front desk. OMG! On the front page was a picture of Bond! God, I couldn't believe it. He was the son of a famous billionaire and they were looking for him. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who'd run away from home. But why did he leave so suddenly? He could have told me the truth. He could have said bye. Ugh! My untold feelings for him felt like an unreachable splinter in my side. I couldn't carry on like this. I needed to find Bond. With my meager salary, I got on the train back to the city, imagining seeing Bond again. This is without a doubt the most nervous I'd ever been in my entire life. It didn't matter how much I pleaded my case and explained that I was Bond's friend. The security guards refused to let me in. I was about to leave when suddenly I saw Bond from afar. He was with a girl. What in the world is this? I tried to strain my eyes to see. My God, isn't that me? No, it's the girl I hired to pretend to be me. What was she doing with Bond? And why did they look so close? Could it be? Yes, it's me, Kate, here again. When I traded places with my doppelganger to avoid being stuck in some ghastly summer school, I didn't expect to end up penniless and having to work in some dusty old homestay. But I suppose it wasn't all bad, as I got to meet Bond. So imagine my surprise when I discovered that not only was he a runaway rich kid like me, but I also caught him hanging out with moi. Well, the other me. Ugh! I hired her to pretend to be me, not to be with my man. Looks like it was time to return to my normal life.
Miss, without a letter of invitation, I can't let you in.
Are you kidding me? Why do I need an invitation to enter my own home? How could they not recognize me? Right at that moment, Clara gracefully got out of a luxury car and entered my house. I shouted over to her, but on seeing me, she gave me a confused look. Then she whispered something to the security guard and went straight inside.
Sorry, Miss Kate doesn't know you. Please leave.
Huh? How dare she? She wasn't Miss Kate. I was. Did she really think she could treat me like this? Ugh! I'd show her who the real rich girl was. But as I was leaving, I caught a glimpse of myself in a car window. Oh my gosh, I looked horrendous. My once bouncy curls, perfectly made-up face, and glamorous clothing were no more. Instead, I had a greasy ponytail, my skin was completely bare, and I was in worn old clothes. No wonder the security guards didn't recognize me. I barely recognized my own self. Well, well, well. How comfortable it is to be back in my room, doll up again, and just take back what's mine. How did you get in here? This is my room, remember? I can run away by myself, so you bet I can sneak back into my own room. Listen here, fake me. Mission's over. It's time you left. What mission? Are you crazy? Get your filthy hands off my stuff! Wow, immerse yourself in the role much, huh? Enough. Now give me my life back. What if I don't? Don't you dare! You think my parents won't recognize me? Seeing as I've been impersonating you for an entire month without question, I doubt it. Besides, they're on a month-long business trip in Dubai. So, who will help you now, huh? OMG, she was so arrogant, unruly, and obnoxious. Worst of all, she reminded me of someone. Me! Well, the old me. Why didn't I realize before how awful I actually was? Ignoring Clara's defiant face, I took out my phone and made a FaceTime call to my parents. They had to spot it was me straight away, right? Wrong. They gave us both looks of shocked confusion, and they couldn't seem to tell us apart. So they told the two of us to stay at home for the time being while they made arrangements to come back. Huh, is it that hard to distinguish your own daughter from a hick? But anyway, she'll be out of here soon enough. The next morning, we went back to school. Claire looked so trashy in her tiny miniskirt. Jeez, this wasn't a nightclub. Oh, Kate, you look outstanding. Where did you buy it from? That's it. My friends will always be able to tell me apart from a fraud. But hang on. No! They were moving toward Clara. Huh? Are they actually praising her?
Wow, there's another Kate here, but it's a faulty version. A lame one. My panicked feeling increased as all my friends and Clara burst out laughing. You guys don't recognize me? I'm the real Kate, the one you all idolize, the trendsetter around here. Everyone looked at me in bewilderment, and then back to Clara. Look at her pathetic appearance. She's just trying to be a copy of me. After that, Clara and her friends left. Jeez, all it took was one summer away for Clara to turn into me. Ugh, why doesn't anyone recognize me? Seeing Clara living my life with my friends was driving me crazy. I was now seen as the copycat version of my own self. Ugh, no way was I losing to this crafty charlatan. So the next day, I decided to show everyone how charismatic I was. After all, form is temporary, but class is permanent. And soon, everyone would realize who the real Kate was, right? I waited until Clara was out of the way, then I went over to my group and started recalling some of our old stories that only the real me could possibly know. When Clara returned, oh my, she looked furious. Ha! One day, when I just entered the cafeteria, I saw my group making a nerdy girl run errands for them. Poof, your mother is the school's measly janitor, so you two are just our dog's body. Now hurry up and go get us some ketchup. When the girl was bringing it to them, one of them tripped her foot and made her face fall down on the plate of sauce. The whole group burst into laughter. I rushed to help her up and scowled at the clique chic girls. They may have looked stylish, but beneath it all, they were monsters. But worst of all, it was my fault, as it was my group. I'd basically created them. What's wrong with her mom being a janitor? That doesn't mean she has to serve you guys. As I can see, all of your legs and arms are working fine. So go get stuff yourself. Wow, look who it is. Do you all believe she's just a lousy replica of mine now? The true clique chic Kate wouldn't blurt out such nonsense. Clique chic all looked me up and down, then gave me disgusted looks. Too much of a saint. What a hypocrite. Kate would never say that. Obviously, she's the fake one. Those whispers made me so angry that I turned as red as the ketchup. Fine, pretend to be me all you want. But you and I both know I'm the real me, and I'm better than ever. You won't be able to keep up that act for much longer. And then to the surprise of the others, I stormed off. That night, social media was awash with my news. Can you believe I was actually being mocked for being the copycat while Clara was being praised? Talk about ridiculous. I scrolled through my old photos and scanned over some of the thousands of likes and compliments. I'd lived in the admiration of everyone. Ugh! Maybe I needed to go back to being the arrogant and snobby old Kate, and then everything would be over, right? Only I couldn't do it. I couldn't be that heartless and selfish version of myself anymore. So how could I end this whole mess of my own making? There was another way. If there's only one Kate who showed up, there wouldn't be any more fakers. Oh, seems like it's going to be a really good day at school today. But such a shame that our sweet Clara might not be able to join us. Everyone greeted me warmly as they thought that the imposter who was smeared on social media yesterday had been too embarrassed to show her face. Even so, I didn't want to hang out with these stuck-up mean girls anymore. The clique chic group should be disbanded. As I was deep in thoughts, out of nowhere, a nerd blocked my way with a bouquet of flowers. He timidly held them out to me, and people began buzzing and pointing. The girls in the group took pictures of him and urged me forward. "That's our Kate with her irresistible charms."
Someone's essay's ready for next week.
I hesitated, not knowing what to say. I didn't want to accept love from someone I didn't like. People started to frown at my silence. Then a few voices of doubt arose.
Why doesn't she accept the bouquet as usual?
Perhaps she's not? I saw red. Suddenly, I found this whole pretending to flirt with someone just to have them do our homework absurd. And above all else, it wasn't fair to him. You don't have the guts to do it, do you? Because you're not Kate. Startled, I turned around to see Clara taking the bouquet of flowers from the nerd's hand. I snatched it back angrily. He likes me, not you. He likes Kate, and I'm Kate. That Clara was just so shameless to say that. Did she really think she could be me? Did she think being mean and snobby made her the it girl? How shallow of her. Yes, if it was Kate from the past, I would have received that bouquet and made him do my homework. But the present Kate won't do that. Do it yourself. Stop relying on others to do everything for you. As for you, Clara, let me tell you this. Despite your best efforts, you'll never be me. Once a liar, always a liar, you counterfeit. I was done here. I was the real me, and if they couldn't see that, then whatever. So I walked away. Suddenly, a hand pulled me back. It was the nerd. Sorry, but I really don't like you in that way.
You really don't have feelings for me? Are you sure?
Upon his words, he took off his wig, glasses, and the mole on his face. Bond? Is it really you? I was so shocked that I couldn't believe my eyes. Bond handed me the bouquet and said,
You won't say no, will you?
Of course. How could I say no? I led him to an empty classroom to talk. Why are you here? And what's with the disguise?
After I left the homestay, I went back home. My parents did what they always do, and tried to make out like money could solve everything by throwing an extravagant party. I was lingering out of the way when, to my surprise, you walked in with your family.
Huh? What party? Oh, he must mean Clara. He continued.
I went over to talk to you, but you acted like you'd never met me before, so it didn't take me long to work out this girl wasn't you. I was worried, so I called the homestay and they said you'd left. Determined to solve this mystery, I went to your school and found everyone was in a frenzy, as out of nowhere 2 Kates had appeared. Both of them were it girls and nothing like the homestay Kate I knew. So, in order to suss out the real one, I disguised myself. And my plan worked. As here you are.
You're such a trickster! But I still have one question. Why did you suddenly leave the homestay that day? So, turns out his passion for marine life led him to run away from his disapproving parents and go to a coastal homestay. Only, when he realized from the newspaper that his parents were looking for him, he didn't want to get the homestay into trouble, so he returned home. You should have at least said goodbye to me. I was so down when you left like that. Did you know that?
Kate, I'm truly sorry. I never meant to upset you. Actually, I'm kinda crazy about you.
After that, Bond drove me home. And guess what? Looks like my parents were back earlier than expected. As for the fake Clara, she'd already fled the scene with a load of my clothes and makeup. But, whatever. At least she'd finally gone. So, what now? Well, I'm dating Bond, and I'm so happy with him. At weekends, I go to the coast and help him with his marine animal research, which is actually a lot of fun. And I don't even mind having salty air lips. I never take my parents for granted anymore, and I never force other students to carry out dumb errands for me. And of course, clique chic was no longer a thing. Everyone at school had grown used to the new and improved version of me. Obviously, I'll always be the it girl who sets the trends, but only the decent ones.
It was a normal, boring day in the grocery store. I was stacking milk in the fridge when Camilla, my coworker, came and said, "Layla, you have to help me. I have this date tomorrow night, but I'm busy. Could you please go instead?" Wait, what? I don't even know your date. Besides, I have a boyfriend. Lincoln, remember? Then she began explaining to me about this dating service, and she assured me it was 100% legit. It was mainly lonely men who just wanted some company. All I had to do was talk to them, and of course, there was a strict no hugging or kissing policy. At the end of the date, they'd pay me. No thanks. No way I was gonna do that. After my shift, I went home to see my landlady lingering in my doorway. She started yelling at me that I still owed her 5 months' worth of rent, and if I didn't pay it by the end of the week, she'd kick me out. I begged her to give me more time, but it was pointless. My God, what to do? Where could I get that much money on such short notice? Oh, wait a minute. What about Camilla's dating service? It looks like I was out of choices, so I called her and agreed to go on the date. So here I am, on my weird date night. I put the most basic dress I could find on. Oh boy, I sure felt nervous. I have no idea what to say and how to act. Oh, that must be him. My God, Camilla! How could she forget to mention that the guy was in his 50s? People would think he's my sugar daddy. Ugh! Keep it together, Layla. I couldn't back out now, as my home depended on it. So, I slowly approached the man. At first, he looked surprised. That figures. I mean, he was expecting Camilla. I explained the situation to him, and he wasn't mad or anything. He just smiled at me, and we started chatting. He's called Mr. Hall. He lost his wife 2 years ago, and ever since then, he's been feeling lonely and needed someone to talk to. So that's why he started using this service. He was actually pretty easy to talk to, so the night quickly went by without any problem. After the date, he handed me an envelope and told me how grateful he was to me for listening to his burdens. I was itching to go home and open the envelope, but then he started going on about his heartbroken son. Suddenly, he was asking me if I'd talk to him. Obviously, I refused as this was a one-time thing to help out Camilla. Besides, I have a boyfriend. Speaking of which, he'll be so furious if he ever finds out about this. The next day, I paid the landlady 2 months' rent and assured her I'd have the rest with her soon. But to my shock, she just scowled at me and forced me to pay all at once. Well, guess where I am now? In a cafe, waiting for Mr. Hall and his son. Ugh. Oh, there he is. And that must be his son. Geez, could he look any more annoyed? Hi, I'm Layla. Nice to meet you. Save it. I'm only here because he forced me to. So just let's get it over with. Layla, thank you for coming. This is my son, Leon. Please don't mind his attitude. Then Mr. Hall left us alone. Man, Leon was hard work. Any questions I asked him, he just shrugged or snorted. Then, when he finally spoke, he sarcastically said, "So, Layla, I hope the money's worth it." What? How rude! Then he continued, "You must be desperate. Don't you feel ashamed of yourself?" Ugh! He was the rudest person I'd ever met. But, yes, I was desperately in need of money. So I took a deep breath and started telling him about myself. When time ran out, I said goodbye to him and left. What an unpleasant experience, but at least that was the end of it, right? Wrong, as Mr. Hall asked me to meet him several more times. Who was I to argue? I mean, I needed the money. But Leon was getting on my nerves, as all he did was slouch in his seat, slurp his drink, and say nothing. So, it was down to me to do all of the talking. I began telling him all sorts of things, about my past, my family, and friends, and even about my future plans. And Leon just sat there listening to everything, supposedly. Luckily, it finally ended, and Mr. Hall paid me so I never had to meet Leon again. Because the last few weeks had been taken up with dating Mr. Hall and his son, I hadn't seen much of Lincoln. So, at the weekend, I invited him over to mine and cooked for him. We were sitting on the couch hugging while watching a movie when Lincoln said, in a serious tone, "Layla, we need to talk." But then suddenly my phone rang. It was Mr. Hall. I quickly rushed to the balcony to pick up. He wanted me to be Leon's +1 at his eldest son's wedding, and he was willing to pay double? Ugh. That sounded awful, but besides rent, I also had to pay for college fees and food, and my measly income from the grocery store didn't come close to covering it at all, so I reluctantly agreed. When I returned inside, I asked Lincoln what he wanted to tell me. He hesitantly said that he had to go on a business trip for 2 weeks. Well, maybe it was for the best, so I could go with Leon without worrying about my boyfriend. Ugh, I felt so guilty. I swear this would be the last time I was going to do this. Leon arrived to pick me up, and as soon as he saw my dress, he insisted I couldn't wear such an ugly thing. Ugh, he was so rude. I told him I had nothing else suitable, so he drove me to a dress boutique, then told the staff to bring the most beautiful dress in store to try on. Oh my, it was stunning. I was overwhelmed when I saw myself in the mirror. Well, I definitely looked amazing in it, and Leon must be thinking that too, 'cause he couldn't take my eyes off me. It's such a shame I can't afford it. But then before I could stop him, he went ahead and paid for it. How frustrating. I was sitting in the church waiting for the wedding to start, while Leon flirted with some girls. Thank God Lincoln wasn't like that jerk. Then everyone went to their seats and the wedding began. The groom walked to the altar in this luxury-fitted suit. Man, it must be so nice to be rich. But is that Lincoln? My Lincoln? Our eyes met, and he looked as shocked as I did. But instead of running to me and explaining everything, he just ignored me and continued with the wedding. I had to watch them saying their vows, exchanging rings, and kissing. I thought I was going to faint any minute now. Then at the wedding reception, Leon dragged me over to Lincoln and introduced me as his girlfriend. Awkward overload. And soon, some pretty girl distracted Leon again, so he chased after her. Then Lincoln immediately pulled me over to the stairwell. "Why are you here with my brother? Were you cheating on me this whole time?" "Seriously? What about you? I'm not the one who just got married." "Let me explain, it's not what it looks like." Right at that moment, Leon appeared and asked why we were here talking. I muttered out some story about trying to find the bathroom. Then I told Leon I had a headache and asked him to take me home. This was so confusing. How could my perfect boyfriend now be married to someone else? He kept on texting me saying he wanted to meet up and talk. I guess I needed to at least hear him out. The next day I met him at the museum, where we had our first date. So, his wife, Sandra, is the daughter of an affluential businessman who owns one of the biggest corporations in town. Lincoln's family company is in big debt, so his dad forced him to marry Sandra in order to save the company. Believe me when I say I don't have any feelings for Sandra. It's just business. I only love you. Please don't leave me. I promise, as soon as the company is back on track, I'll file for divorce. Yeah, I know you probably think I'm crazy, but I still love him too. Besides, if the marriage is only temporary so he can save this family business, then that's understandable, right? He kissed me goodbye and left. But after that, Lincoln changed. Every time I texted and called him, he told me he was busy and would call me back. But he never did. I guess married life was preoccupying him. As if this wasn't frustrating enough, I had to put up with Leon. He kept on appearing at my place and bothering me. One time he showed up drunk, complaining about his ex-girlfriend, who'd just married someone else. Yeah, obviously it's far from worse than my current boyfriend just getting married. I tried to kick him out, but he'd already fallen asleep on my couch. The next morning, I went to the kitchen to see Leon holding a picture of me and Lincoln and asking why we were on it. So I just shrugged and explained that we were a couple. Leon started laughing and calling me a fool. We argued back and forth, and in the end, I made him leave. I don't care what everyone thinks. I believe Lincoln. Then a few days later, I was walking out of college when I saw Mr. Hall waiting for me. He gave a slight sigh, then said, "I will make this short. Stay away from Lincoln. He's married now. Layla, I'm fond of you, but if you try messing with Lincoln's marriage, I won't hesitate in making things complicated for you." Oh my God. I can't believe Leon snitched on me. Ugh, what a giant baby. In anger, I took out my phone and gave him a piece of my mind. Oh my God. I can't believe you told your dad about me and Lincoln. You're such a jerk. Just leave us alone and mind your own business. If you trust Lincoln, then that's on you. But he's not as innocent as he makes out. He and Dad would do everything for the company. What did that mean? I hung up without letting him say another word. This jerk didn't even try to cover up his action. I couldn't just let them do this. I needed to fight for us. So the next day, I walked straight into Mr. Hall's office, even though his secretary tried to stop me. I told him right to his face that I would never give up on Lincoln despite his threats. And you know what? Forcing your son to get married just to save the company makes you a coward. Mr. Hall burst out laughing. Well, what came next was far from funny. Turns out it was Lincoln's idea to marry Sandra. Leon was right. Both of them would do everything for the company. Another thing, Leon didn't tell Mr. Hall about Lincoln and me. He saw us talking at the wedding, so we hired someone to investigate us. I was totally wrong about Leon. Right at that moment, Lincoln walked in and stopped dead on seeing me. "Layla, what are you doing here?" "You liar. I can't believe I trusted you." "Please hear me out." I took the iced coffee from Mr. Hall's desk and splashed it in Lincoln's lying face. We're done. Overcome with emotions and feeling like a massive fool, I rushed to the nearest bar to drown my sorrows. I was about to down my fourth shot when a hand stopped me. Can Lincoln just leave me alone? But when I looked up, it was Leon. "Why are you so good to me? I mean, I blamed you for telling your dad. You should hate me." "Because I like you." I felt like the room was spinning upon hearing his words. Then everything slowly came to light. Leon was devastated when his girlfriend broke up with him. But then he found out she did it to be with his brother. Yes, you heard me right. His ex was none other than Sandra. At first, Mr. Hall forced Leon to marry Sandra for the sake of the company. Even though Leon was crazy about her, he didn't want to marry her under those stipulations. Lincoln overheard their conversation, so to gain his father's trust, he charmed Sandra away from Leon. Oh my God, this family was crazy. I didn't want anything to do with any of them ever again. So I just rejected Leon's feelings, ran straight out of the bar, and cut off totally with all of them. So what now? Well, I graduated last month. So after that, I decided I needed a fresh start in a shiny new city. So far, so good. I have a new job, which I adore. And it's so good knowing I'm not going to run into that jerk Lincoln or his dad. I know what you're wondering. What about Leon? Well, one day, I was walking out of my apartment when I saw a familiar face. Yes, it was him. Turns out when Leon heard that I was moving to another city, he moved too. I thought it was sweet that he was willing to leave his family, friends, and job behind just to be with me. Maybe it's time to gradually open up to him, don't you think? Well, time will tell. Too bad my story has to end here. Wow, this cake tastes like heaven. I reached out to grab another piece when I heard a growl behind me. I told you to be graceful, didn't I? Then Mom pulled me over to greet this smartly dressed couple. Ugh, again. They looked me up and down, then said, "I heard that you're a gifted pianist. We would love to hear you play." Huh? Piano? I'd never played it before in my life. Before I could say a word, Mom chimed in. "Unfortunately, Phoebe's just sprained her wrist. Maybe next time." I looked at her confused. Why would she lie like that? Jeez. "Mom, why did you say that I could play the piano?" "Ah, yes. I may have bragged to them that all of my adopted children are excellent." What can I say? All moms boasted about their kids, right? And yep, I'd grown up in an orphanage before Mom welcomed me into her family. This place is pretty grand, huh? I found it overwhelming at first. and ended up getting lost trying to find my room. Luckily, there are plenty of my adoptive sisters around to show me where to go. I do have 10 of them. Yep, you heard me right. 10. It was as if I had just moved from one orphanage to another, only no more orphaned. And we're all similar ages, which is unusual, as foster parents often prefer younger kids. They said us teenagers are rather stubborn. Not to mention how my adoptive dad is never around. Seriously, I couldn't even tell you what he looks like. So it's just us girls here. I got on best with Collins. She's a couple of years older than me, and we share the same bedroom. As much as I liked living with Mom and my sisters, Mom did make us all do strange things, such as wear cheesy clothes and walk in a straight line. Worse still, she forced me to learn the piano. Ugh, I was not at all musical. I just made a right din. She also taught me how to eat properly, but it did kind of feel like a dog training session. I was only allowed to eat when she showed a signal, and by the time I could catch up with how to use the silverwares, the meal was already finished. Ugh. But I suppose that's how every mom teaches her daughter, right? And apparently, Mom didn't have the patience to coach me anymore, so she handed me over to Collins, her star daughter. We spent an hour every day talking together, or rather, she gave me pointers on how to talk correctly. Collins said I needed to control my volume because I had a tendency to shout my words, and it wasn't very ladylike. I had to whisper at the same volume as her, and also choose my words carefully to show intelligence and grace. Ugh, maybe it'd be easier if I just didn't say anything at all from now on. Aside from Collins, I didn't have a chance to get to know my other sisters, as Mom made each of us pursue a different aptitude. Then we had to perform for her on our monthly assessment. Mom's overall very gentle and caring, but too strict when it comes to training. So we all have to spend a lot of time and effort in practice. One day I was trying to make sense of the music sheet when I heard Lexi complain, "Ugh, why does Mom force me on this mission impossible? So boring." What? At least ice skating is 1,000 times more fun than the piano. If only. An idea popped into my head. That night, I went to my mom and timidly said, "Mom, I want to switch from piano lessons to ice skating. I can exchange with Lexi. What? No. But why? Lexi doesn't even like ice skating. Well, it's because I can see potential in each one of you, so it's impossible to switch." Frustrated, I went back to my room and began whining to Collins, but she thought that it wasn't a big deal. Mom knows what's best for us. Well, that I'm not too sure about, yet we didn't even get to go to school. As Mom said, her homeschooling was enough. While I only found her method rather strange, I've dreamed of this perfect life with an amazing mom, but Mom was never very affectionate. It didn't matter how much we studied or tried to perfect our chosen hobby. She never cuddled or praised us, not even Collins, who's the smartest girl here. I was desperate to impress Mom, so one time I spent ages making this Portuguese appetizer for her, but all she did was take one bite and say it was okay. I asked her if she didn't like me, but she just replied in a growl tone that she was helping us to have a high position in society and a bright life. But I don't need those things. I just wanted her to like me. This place is so stuffy, and the only time that I can actually breathe is when I'm on my Friday morning bread buying errand. Ugh. Then suddenly someone patted me on my shoulder, which startled me so much I dropped my stuff. "Hey, it's really you. But is something wrong with you? Why the strange walk?" "The only thing I'm good at is buying bread, but now you've ruined it. See?" Jet stooped down to pick it up for me. He was still as rude as ever, but I still found myself jealous of this free spirit off him. We used to be a perfect match at our orphanage, and quite embarrassing to admit, but I was very naughty back then, and often shoplifted with him. "You could go steal some more. Remember our tricks?" I have to tell you 3 things. Firstly, I've been adopted. Secondly, my adoptive family is wealthy. And finally, I'm being educated to be a noble lady, so no more stealing. That's ridiculous. I also have 3 things for you. I've been adopted too. My parents love me so much. Oh, and they're cops. We looked at each other and burst out laughing. So we were both caught, weren't we? Jet and I sat down on a nearby bench to catch up, and when I poured my heart out about my new family, he interrupted me. "Sounds strange to me. Why would they only adopt teenage girls? And what are those training lessons and monthly evaluations for? Then, Jet insisted that he would investigate my adoptive family. That's silly. But anyway, it's fun to reunite with a friend, and we agreed to hang out every Friday after that. And here comes my first assessment. Of course, I couldn't even play a simple melody, so I had to study for 3 more hours every day. My sisters suffered even more. Kinsley was forced to abstain from food because she weighed 2 kilograms more than the standard. In contrast, Willow had to eat continuously at night in order to gain 5 kilograms. If it's to this extent, then it must have not been simply for the sake of the casual boasting of a mom, right? On the next Bread Friday, I told Jet about last week's assessment. He firmly stated that there was a problem with my family. I don't think so, Jet. Mom just wants the best for us. Listen, Phoebe, I think she trained you guys on purpose. Each of you has to be good at a certain subject, just like the shopping orders. Orders? Don't go too far. You know Kobe beef? Cows are made to listen to music, given beer to drink, and massaged, but in the end, you know what the outcome is. Oh no. Is that what this is? Mom always said that she would give us the best life, as long as we worked hard. Were we being tested and stamped like those cows? One day, I came home to Collins excitedly packing her suitcase. Mom said she's taking me to a new school tomorrow. So Collins was leaving? But where? I'll miss you, sis. Text me when you get there? But days passed without a word from her. I asked Mom, and she said that Collins' hard work paid off, and she'd been accepted into a prestigious school, but they had a strict no phones rule. Huh, that sounded sus. So I told Jet, and he insisted I report the case. Another Friday, Jet and I met at a church near the bakery. Why did he choose this boring place? I was looking around when I saw a group of schoolgirls coming out of the church. They all wore the same dull uniform, had their hair neatly tied back in a bun, and all obediently lined up. Then there I saw her. Collins? I was about to rush over to greet her, but the glare of the woman accompanying her scared me off. This was not right. I'd got to ask Collins what was going on. So I grabbed Jet's arm and went after the group. But they got into a black car and sped away. Maybe they chose this church as a place for their transactions. Smart, huh? They put everyone in school uniforms so no one would suspect them. But seeing those faces, I'm sure they're about to be sent to the black market soon. Black market? The thought alone made me shudder. I had to save Collins. I couldn't let Mom get away with this. That night, I tiptoed downstairs to eavesdrop. Okay, I'll deliver her this weekend. Correct. She's 5'7". She can ice skate, cooking and painting. Of course, I have her trained as required. You won't be disappointed. So the deal goes as planned, okay? See you on Sunday. That's it. The next delivery was Lexi. I checked her room and saw her packing her stuff, a beam of innocent happiness on her face. I quickly texted Jet, and he immediately replied, "Just wait at home calmly. Don't act without thinking. I'll figure something out." That night, I couldn't sleep a wink. I was so terrified something terrible would happen to Lexi. So early the next morning, as soon as I saw Mom and Lexi getting in the car to leave, I snuck into the trunk, lay there without making any sound, and sent Jet the location. The car took a long time to stop. Had we finally arrived at the transaction location? When it seemed safe, I carefully climbed out and saw Mom talking to a fastidious-looking middle-aged woman. What did Mom say that made Lexi so panicked that she kept clutching Mom's hand? The woman handed Mom a rather thick envelope, then grabbed Lexi's hand and dragged her away. God, where was Jet? I couldn't just sit still like this and watch my sister being taken away. Let Lexi go! Now! Phoebe, what are you doing? Stop it. You're going to sell us, aren't you? I already know the truth. What on earth are you talking about, Phoebe? Furious, Mom pulled me away. Stop. Suddenly, 2 cops rushed in, ordering everyone to put their hands up. Behind them was Jet, still panting. Turns out they were Jet's adoptive parents. Help me! Mom is trying to sell me and my sister. Seeing that, the other woman quickly explained, No, there must be a misunderstanding here. I'm just helping Gianna's daughter to enroll at my school. Bewildered, my eyes darted from Mom to the other woman and then to Jet. In the principal's office, I told everyone why I thought my mom was a human trafficker. They all gasped in surprise. I made you practice that hard just because I want you to get in here, the most prestigious all-girls school, so that you can have a better life. I don't want to go to this school anymore, Mom. She told me all about the harsh rules. This place is terrifying. You can't force your kids to do that. You adopted them, so you have to make them feel safe and loved. Miss Gianna, this is a prestigious school, and it doesn't need your scandal. You led me to believe that your daughters were naturally gifted, which now transpires is all lies. I won't accept any child from your family from now on. No, they're my children. They deserve the best. Then she begged the principal to withdraw her decision, but she firmly shook her head. Suddenly, Mom shouted, "Why? I just want them not to suffer like me, so what's wrong with that?" Then Mom burst into tears. It turns out that in the past, Mom was in love with a politician, but he decided it would further his career if he chose to marry a graduate from this prestigious school instead. Mom loved him so much, she continued to be his mistress. But despite being fully provided for by him, Mom always felt that she was inferior to his official wife, especially when he proudly boasted about his smart wife and talented daughters. Then, when she wanted to start her own family, he wouldn't allow it. In the end, she decided to adopt girls and train them to become excellent so that they could enter this school regardless of their background. So that's the reason why she did this to us. I have to admit, I did feel a bit sorry for her. All of this was probably just to ease the pain of her past. But Mom, we don't want to go to this snooty school. We just want you to love us and protect us. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was only trying to help. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. And she hugged me. So, in the end, my sisters and I finally have a truly happy family. Mom doesn't make us do any dumb tasks anymore. Instead, she lets us pursue our own dreams and passions. Now we all go to a public school and live out our normal teen lives. It's wonderful finally having an amazing mom, incredible sisters, and my pretty awesome best friend, Jet, all by my side.
I arrived to find that he'd turned his bedroom into a mini theater, complete with scented candles and glistening fairy lights. He handed me a bowl of popcorn, and as we nibbled our way to the bottom, a carefully written letter came into sight that said,
"I've been in love with you ever since we were little kids. I've held back my feelings as I didn't want to ruin our friendship, but I can't deny them any longer. So, will you be my girlfriend?"
How can he be so gorgeous and sweet and...
Hey, dummy! You writing that cheesy stuff again? Just drop it already. Let's go prank Mr. Weasley!
"Okay, I'm coming!" If only what I wrote came to life. That's my best friend since childhood, Adrian. And as you can see, I have the biggest crush on him. But he only sees me as a bro. How ironic. I'm pretty sure if I confessed my feelings to him, he'd weird it out saying it's gross and stuff. So I just wrote my dream reality down in my novel and posted it on Wattpad. I even used a pen name. I couldn't risk Adrian finding out because, help, awkward alert. Anyway, it's easier this way, as I didn't want my parents to find out either. Yep, they weren't exactly supportive of my writing career. They wanted me to become a lawyer and take over the family firm just like my dad, and his dad, and blah, blah, blah. They made me study hard so I'd get into this prestigious law school, but it was just so dull and my heart just wasn't into it. One day, as I was sipping a macchiato at my favorite coffee shop, a group of girls walked in chattering excitedly about a book by the new author, Agatha C. Huh? Did I hear them right? Curious, I approached them and politely asked to see the book and... Oh my God! It was my pen name right on the cover! I scanned through the first few pages and saw my words. Did this mean my book was published? Ouch! So all this was real! So, someone must have given my book to the publisher. Then it's gotta be Mrs. Jensen. Yes! She is the most respected writer and has loads of connections in the publishing industry. And lucky me, she was my mentor. Hi, Mrs. Jensen. I'm just calling to say I'm so grateful for what you've done for me.
Cecilia, calm down. What are you talking about?
The book, of course. Mrs. Jensen, my book got published thanks to you. Right?
You're talking nonsense, young lady. I've barely started reading your book. So how could it have been published without my notice?
What? So, Mrs. Jensen didn't send it, then who did? What do you mean you can't disclose their identity? It's my book!
Miss, all I can say is that the person who brought it here claims to be the author of the book and chose not to reveal themselves by publishing it under a pen name. We, as the publisher, are legally bound by that, so I can't help you any further.
What on earth was he talking about? Some random person stole my book and my pen name? I needed to prove they were both mine. Aha! My Wattpad page! I tried to log into my account to show the director, but access denied? Oh, no. Someone must have messed with it. I was gonna use it to apply for a writing scholarship at college, and now it was all gone! As if that wasn't bad enough, I suddenly received an email from the writing competition I'd applied for, saying they denied my entry due to plagiarism of a Wattpad page. My Wattpad page! Ugh!
Sup, bro? What's with the King Kong face? Oh, come on. You'll be less of an ugly duckling if you smile more. See?
My gosh, could he just stop being like that for once? He made it very clear we had zero chance of being together. I got it, but he didn't have to rub it in my face like that. Fine then, he'd never have to see me again. After that, I was determined to transfer to another school by the next semester, one that would appreciate my writing talent. Somewhere like Eastwood Academy. It's a school full of literature records. Besides, I happen to know someone there. Lewis, the president of the literature club, and also an uprising star in the writer world. He's not only super talented, but incredibly nice too. He'd help me loads with my novels. But getting into that school would be tough. So, every day, with my game face on, I buried my head under stacks of books, while Adrian tried his best to distract me. One time, he told me to ditch class and go see the new Batman movie with him. I'd waited months for that movie. But no, I'd got to get my head in the game. Adrian didn't give up that easily, though. Only, right at that moment, the teacher appeared behind his back, yanked his ears, and gave him a ticket to the detention room. There went the Batman movie for him. Another time, he came up with a prank for Mr. Jones, the PE teacher who made him run 10 laps around the school for being late. But, sorry, the new Cecilia ain't got time for any of his childish stuff. So when Adrian gave me Mr. Jones's phone and told me to hide it away, I just calmly handed it back to him. As Mr. Jones returned to the teacher lounge, he saw Adrian pouring some liquid into his tumbler, and that's how Adrian got himself 2 detention tickets. After that, Adrian finally noticed that I had been acting differently.
Cece, what is up with you? You keep ignoring me. Are we not friends anymore?
Don't call me Cece. I'm still mad at you, okay? So, yeah, I want to transfer to Eastwood Academy. You know, Lewis's school.
Oh, I see. Stop the act. I know it already.
What? Did he know that I like him? Had he read my book?
You like Lewis.
Huh? Oh. Phew. But hang on. He really thought that? And was he annoyed? Interesting. Yep. In fact, he asked me out to dinner this Saturday.
Really? Okay then. I'll go with you. Can't trust this guy.
And so Adrian tagged along. He kept complaining about how I dressed up all pretty for Lewis and how he had the nerve to be late. So this is what he's like when he's jealous? Kinda cute though. As Lewis arrived, he gave me a big hug, and I could feel Adrian's glare behind my back. I sat close to Lewis and giggled at everything he said. He immediately got what I was trying to do, so he acted along, putting his arm around my shoulder and slightly stroking my hair. At one point, I even helped Lewis take a fallen eyelash out. And oh boy, Adrian couldn't help but lunge forward to separate us. Right at that moment, I heard a familiar voice from behind.
Cecilia? And who are these young men? Lewis?
Oh, hi, Mrs. Jensen. What a small world. You know Lewis too? She didn't answer my question. Instead, she gave me a stern look, then dragged me outside.
Cecilia, what are you doing with that no-good traitor?
You mean Lewis?
Who else? He was heavily criticized and boycotted by the whole writers' community. I strongly suggest you give him a wide berth.
Oh my. I had no idea Lewis had such a bad reputation. He was always so kind to me. Unless this was just an act because he wanted something. Like my novel. What if he was the one who stole it? This was not good. I rushed back to my table, quickly said goodbye to Adrian, then dragged Lewis away. Did you or did you not steal my book?
What? No! Did Mrs. Jensen tell you that?
Turns out, he used to be Mrs. Jensen's brightest mentee. Then he fell in love with her daughter Demi, and they started dating behind her back. But then out of the blue, Demi suddenly broke up with him. Heartbroken, he cut all ties with her and her mom. But Mrs. Jensen took offense at this and had been on his back ever since. Gosh, now my head was spinning. I had no idea who to trust.
Come to think of it, back in my mentee months, I also lost one of my manuscripts. I sort of ran into a dead end with that one, so I didn't do any digging, but it can't be a coincidence, right? It must have been Mrs. Jensen who stole them.
No way! She's an incredible writer. Why would she do something like that?
There's no better explanation for this. Don't worry, I've got a plan to expose her for the stinking thief she is.
He then called the publisher, pretending to be some big-shot producer, and asked them to arrange a meeting with the author of my stolen book, as he'd like to produce a high-budget movie based on it. Brilliant, isn't it? We arrived at the rendezvous in awesome disguises and waited for this to play out. Our tension rose as the footsteps got closer. And then, standing at the door was, well, Mrs. Jensen. How could you? I trusted you!
Cecilia? What's going on? Oh, drop the act. There's no movie. We only planned this trap to expose you for the book thief you are.
Mrs. Jensen persistently denied our accusations and claimed she was only here because her daughter arranged a big surprise for her. Then Lewis and Mrs. Jensen started quarreling with each other and it all got messy. Stop! Both of you, please just stop!
Demi, please explain yourself.
It was me, okay? I stole your book, Cecilia. I saw it on Mom's desk. I'm so sorry.
I don't understand. You don't need to steal someone else's hard work. You already are an excellent writer.
No, Mom, I'm not. I've tried so hard to meet your expectations, but I just can't. I didn't want to disappoint you, so I stole your mentee's work, including yours, Lewis. I was so ashamed of myself I couldn't face you after that. I'm so sorry. Lewis let out a long sigh, then pulled Demi in for a hug and comforted her. Right at that moment, Adrian barged in and grabbed Lewis's collar.
You jerk! You were flirting with Cecilia a day ago, and now you're canoodling with another girl right in front of her?
Adrian, stop! It's not what you think. Then I led him out of the restaurant. Turns out he saw me leaving the house with Lewis looking all weird, so he decided to follow us here. The truth is, I don't have a crush on Lewis. I was just trying to see if you think of me as more than just a friend.
Well, I do like you. Like, a lot. But I don't want to risk our friendship. I can't bear the thought of not having you in my life, so I figured it'd be best to treat you as one of the guys.
Guess what? I like you too, idiot. So, what do you say?
Yeah, let's give it a shot. But you have to promise me if things don't work out, we'll still be friends, okay?
Promise. Then we pinky swore just like when we were little kids. Only this time, he pulled me in for the best kiss ever. Finally, my book's mine again. And guess what? It has just become the #1 bestseller novel according to the New York Times. Ah! This calls for a celebration. Adrian, will you help me with the guest list for the party?
Sure, sweetie. Who do you want to invite?
Now, let's see. There's my parents, who were so impressed with my independent work that they're now letting me follow my writing dreams. There's also Lewis and Demi. Aw, they make such a cute couple. Demi decided to start over with her writing career, this time without the pressure from her mom. And with Lewis's help, she's got a bright future ahead. And last but not least, Mrs. Jensen, who's now fully supportive of her daughter's career and her relationship with Lewis. I guess it's a happy ending for both my novel, me. So, my dream of conquering Hollywood and becoming a world-renowned actress is finally beginning. Today is my first casting. Oh boy, I hope it runs smoothly. Now I just have to change my clothes. I heard that Jenny Sinclair is here too. She's bound to get the main role, as her billionaire dad is too influential for her to not to. Ugh, you mean Jenny? The talentless eye candy? She's nothing special. Her dad's loaded, and it's rumored her mom is a famous actress. But after giving birth to her, she abandoned her for a movie role. This is so unfair. How are we meant to compete with some rich girl with a paternal sob story? Yes, I'm Jenny Sinclair, the daughter of billionaire Rod Sinclair, and the rumored daughter of a mysterious famous actress. People think growing up in wealth means my life is super easy. Wrong. My dad refuses to talk to me about my mother, hence even I myself don't know who she is, and Dad is also completely against my acting dreams. You see, I definitely needed to win this role on talent. Then they'd all take me seriously. It's almost my turn. I'm so nervous. The movie's called The Servant, so the main role is for the part of this maid, and Mrs. Sharma, a veteran actress who had just come back from Hollywood, will play the role of the ruthless mistress. This is it. Fingers crossed I don't forget my lines.
Next, Jennifer Sinclair.
Ignoring the buzzing gossip behind me, I confidently stepped onto the stage and smiled at Mrs. Sharma. She seemed a little surprised when she saw me.
Fetch me a cup of chamomile tea.
I was walking with the tray when... Oops! I tripped and fell, and the cup shattered across the floor.
You incompetent girl! You do realize that cup was worth more than you are?
Huh? This wasn't in the script. Stunned, I just stood there with a confused look on my face.
Poof! Miss Sinclair, how are you supposed to be an actress when your reactions are this abysmal? Acting is also about improvisation, not just learning the script by heart, young lady. Jenny, you clearly didn't do your research, as you're clueless about this character.
I regained my composure, hurriedly apologized to Miss Sharma, and begged the director to let me try one more time.
I don't have time for this. How can a young girl who was born with a silver spoon in her mouth ever understand the life of a maid? Please leave. Other contestants are waiting.
So, my dream casting became a nightmare. Ugh! It felt like the whole world was laughing at me. Miss, please get up. You need to eat something. Please don't be down. There'll be plenty of other opportunities. No, that was my big chance, and I blew it. Lucas Hemingworth hates me. That basically means the whole industry will now shun me. Oh, him. My aunt's his housekeeper, and she said he's a horror to work for. He's fired 5 housekeepers within the last month, and now nobody dares apply. Don't let him get you down. Everybody knows how obnoxious he is. Did you just say Lucas Hemingworth is looking for a maid, and you know the housekeeper there? That's right, but this is the perfect way to show him that I'm not just a pretty face. I might seem like a spoiled rich girl. I sure still can play the role of a maid better than anyone else. Please help me, or else I'll go on a hunger strike. Before she had a chance to reply, I grabbed the glass of milk and glugged it all in one breath. Okay then, we have the deal now? Hey, it's me, Jenny. I pass for a maid now, right? Remember what I told you, and never set foot in the master's working room without being asked. Now go to the warehouse and get me the box of Christmas decorations. Ugh, this box was so heavy. Suddenly I bumped into something, and as I fell, all of the Christmas decorations scattered across the floor. Huh? What was beneath me? Oh no, I was lying on top of someone. Oh my God, it was Lucas. I quickly got off him and apologized, but he just tutted at me, then walked off. I was feeling dumbfounded as I picked up the decorations when this girl approached me. You're the new maid, huh? Don't think that being pretty means you can seduce my dad to become a famous actress or something. Here's a piece of advice. Don't even dream about it. From now on, this maid serves me and only me. What a bummer. It was only my first day and I'd already got on the wrong side of Lily, the director's daughter. She already had a reputation in the modeling world for her extremely unpleasant personality. And indeed, from that day on, whenever she was home, she spent every second of her time tormenting me. Once, Lily asked me to bring her a cup of hot tea, but as soon as I put the tea tray down, she immediately changed her mind. She wanted her tea to be cool instead, so I had to stand fanning the cup for half an hour. Then, on another occasion, she ordered me to stand by the pool in the midday heat holding a tray of fruit. Then after each lap, she made me feed her a piece. It's not surprising I ended up with heat stroke and fell into the pool, which must have been extremely funny to Lily. Ugh. Well, she who laughs today may weep tomorrow. The next day, while watering the roses in the backyard, I caught sight of Lily acting out the part of the maid in front of her father through the living room's window. It seemed that she wanted to take the lead role in the movie too.
I think you should just focus on your commercial advertising projects. You haven't learned the lines, and your fake crying is terrible. Do you even know which book this movie is adapted from?
Then he just left, leaving her with her tantrum. At that moment, Lily caught me standing there laughing. So, as punishment, she ordered me to clean every single book in the library. Ugh! Whatever. I liked books anyway. Standing on the ladder cleaning, I happened to see the original copy of The Servant, the book the play is based on. I took it off the shelf, when suddenly, the sound of the door opening startled me. I quickly put the book back and tried to climb down the ladder, but then I misplaced my footing and... Firm hands grabbed my waist and guided me onto my feet. They were wearing a hoodie, mask, and sunglasses. OMG, had a thief just saved me? Who are you? How did you get in? This is trespassing. Do you realize whose house you're trying to rob?
And you, do you know who you're talking to? Thief. Ridiculous.
Then he pulled down his hood and took off his sunglasses and mask. Oh God, it was Jack Jerome, the hottest actor on the scene right now. Before I could react, Lily's high-pitched scream startled us both. Jack, you're here! It's so exciting that you're staying with us for the next few months. I'm such a huge fan. To Lily's dismay, Jack ignored her, then coldly walked out of the room. So, turns out Jack's been cast as the male lead in The Servant, and to avoid adding to his already scandalous past and thus affecting the movie, Lucas insisted he stay here during filming. Anyway, even though I didn't like Jack at all, at least him being around meant Lily was too busy clinging onto him to pester me. These days, I often take advantage of the late-night cleaning time to study the original book. The last audition is coming up, and I have to understand my character better than anyone else. I was cleaning the kitchen while reading when suddenly I heard footsteps. Who could it be at this time?
So, you like this book? It's confusing though, right?
Are you suggesting a mere maid like me isn't smart enough to understand it? I have no idea why you're cast as the warm, kind-natured, sincere part of Alfred. You're clearly the opposite of him.
It's called acting, sweetheart. So are you saying an actor must be exactly like their character in real life? Then shouldn't you be more cautious, since I just played a murdering lunatic in my last movie?
He's really unpleasant. Arguing with someone as arrogant as him was pointless. I'd just taken a few steps when I slipped over, but Jack reached out and grabbed my shirt tail, which helped save me from falling flat on the ground, but caused my shirt to tear. I blushed in embarrassment and tried to fix it.
Here, have this,
he said, as he quickly took off his jacket and placed it around my shoulders. At that moment, out of nowhere, Lily appeared. On seeing her, Jack hurriedly left the kitchen. She stormed over to me and yanked his shirt off me. What now? Changing your target already? But let me remind you, you're just some dumb maid. Jack's mine? Oh, poor Lily. You delusional girl. I'm not interested in Jack, but it doesn't take more than a glance to tell he's not remotely interested in her. Because of yesterday's incident, Lily made me wake up at 4 a.m. to bake probably all kinds of cakes that exist on Earth. I'd just finished decorating the last batch when she rushed into the kitchen, snatched the apron and gloves off me, then put them on. I didn't have time to understand what was happening when Jack walked in and she quickly held the plate out to him. "Have a bite! I got up early to make it for you." What a fake! Jack was about to pop a piece of cake into his mouth when I realized it was almond. He's allergic to them. "Stop! That cake has almonds in it. Here, have this one." He took the cake, then winked at me before he walked off. Yeah, his personality sucks, but oh boy, how to resist that strong jawline and those beautiful deep eyes? Naturally, Lily was furious, so she forced me to make tea. But no matter how much she knocked on Jack's door, he wouldn't open it for her. So she angrily threw the tea tray on the ground and yelled for me to clean it up. Oh my, it was such a mess. The carpet was tea-stained and there were bits of chipped china everywhere. I started picking up the pieces when, ouch, I cut my hand. Jack immediately opened the door. Then on seeing my bleeding hand, he quickly led me into his room and helped me bandage the cut. I didn't know he had this warm side to him. How surprising. This weekend, the director's having a small gathering for the film cast and crew, so my time was taken up with the preparation for this. Now I was confident to say that I had fully understood what it's like to be a servant. There's no housework that I hadn't tried. I also accidentally lied to the housekeeper that I used to be a bartender, so she assigned the cocktail making to me. I was trying to get my head around the recipe of a cosmopolitan when Jack walked in.
Pretty good, but perhaps it needs a little more cranberry juice. You want them merry, not passing out. I know all the guests coming, so I can give you hints on what cocktails to serve them.
That's a good thing. I could ask him more about my future co-stars. The two of us talked passionately about wine, cocktails, and the servant book. Turns out he's actually quite sweet, and nothing at all like those ego-driven swine the press portray him as. While talking and drinking, I felt a little dizzy. Suddenly, Jack approached me.
Actually, I find you quite captivating, so you can quit playing around now.
Playing around? Huh? You think I like you? You're drunk. I was about to leave when Jack stopped me.
You're always falling over in front of me. You remember my almond allergy? You're reading the book I'm cast as the lead in. If you don't like me, how come you've been with me this whole time?
I looked at Jack confused. Honestly, every time I faced him, I felt my heart skip. Seeing me blushing, Jack gently lifted my chin and placed a sweet kiss on my lips. Right then, a scream made me jump and almost fell over again. Ah! What on earth are you two doing? I frantically ran out of the kitchen, leaving Lily screaming behind me. I sat outside by the pool until I regained my composure. That was unexpected. My first kiss was with Jack, the scandalous actor I hated the most. I think I needed to leave before things became even more complicated. After composing myself, I went back to my room to start packing, and saw my clothes were thrown across the ground, and there, sitting on my bed with a smug look on her face, was Lily. She waved my passport and script in her hand. "Jenny Sinclair, it appears I know your secret. How humble of you to lower yourself to play a maid just to get a movie role. Imagine the scandal if the press found out about this. No one would dare to cooperate with a snake like you." I angrily grabbed my things back, but it didn't work. Lily even pulled out her phone to film and threaten me. "Do what I say, else this video goes viral. Then not only will your daddy dearest know you've been scrubbing toilets all day, but imagine the damage your lies will do to his precious reputation." Gah! She was messing with the wrong girl. My method acting experience was over. I was done being her puppet. It's time she realized who's the true master of this game. Only 3 more steps to go. 3, 2, 1. Sophie! Oh man. Busted. Okay. So, it's because today at school I persuaded a friend to test out my skateboard.
But come on. How was I supposed to know she'd end up breaking her leg? Oops.
I called your dad, and he's arranging your school transfer.
What? Ugh! Is anyone else's mom way over the top like mine? My dad's away on business trips a lot, so the majority of the time it's just me and her. But we're basically chalk and cheese. Everything I do seems to annoy her. Skateboarding or partying, even breathing, I suppose. Geez, doesn't she remember what being young was like? Or was she born this boring? Then whenever something happens, she always rings Dad and snitches on me. Ugh! Speak of the devil. Oh, hi, Dad.
Sophie, it's all sorted. You're transferring to Kings West High School next week.
But Dad, I don't want to move schools.
You brought it onto yourself, young lady. I have an old friend teaching there. I've told her to keep an eye on you. So, you better behave yourself.
Poof! He thought he could scare me? As if. I ain't afraid of some cranky teacher. So comes my first day at this place, and this teacher, friend of Dad's, Miss Janet Clark, wouldn't quit gawping at me, and she kept on calling on me to answer her stupid questions. No thanks. Ugh. I needed to liven this boring class up. So when the teacher briefly left the room, I immediately put Vaseline on the cap of her water bottle. It was so funny watching her failing to open it and ended up with a smudged hand. Then when she asked the class who was responsible, I grinned as I raised my hand. Another time, I put an air horn on her chair leg, so as soon as she sat down, there was an ear-splitting sound. It's as if she just farted.
Impressive. How do you think up such crazy pranks? You're even better than me.
Huh? I froze for a few seconds. Who was this handsome boy, and why hadn't I noticed him before? Turns out he's Dylan, and like me, he's prone to getting in trouble. We were talking to each other passionately when I felt a hand pat on my shoulder. It was Miss Clark. She led me into the corridor, and I expected her to shout at me, but surprisingly, she didn't get angry or anything. Instead, she asked if I was having a hard time. How odd. The next morning, I was about to enter the classroom when some popular girls stopped me. Who are you trying to impress? Better know your place, newbie.
She's just another plain Jane. What are you worried about, Rebecca? There's no way Dylan likes her.
Stay away from Dylan, else. Excuse me? This snooty girl just messed with the wrong person. And that's how we ended up pulling each other's hair until I managed to get a hold of her wrist and was about to give her a taste of my shoulder throw. Then Miss Clark intervened. The so-called Queen Bee quickly fled the scene. Then Miss Clark led me out to the schoolyard for a walk. She told me that this girl Rebecca was Dylan's ex-girlfriend. Oh, how pathetic. Our Becky has a crush on her ex. Then Miss Clark continued asking if I really felt okay, as she thought there must be some reason behind my rebellious behaviors. Just like that, my emotions got the better of me, and I blurted out how I hated moving schools, and the only good thing about this new place was Dylan. And could you believe it? She actually gave me some flirting tips to impress Dylan, and also told me to text her if I had any problems. Maybe I'd been wrong about Miss Clark. She was actually pretty cool, and I started talking to her pretty often. Then one day, I arrived home to see my bedroom door was ajar. I peeked inside and spotted Mom on my bed, iPad in hand, reading my diary on it. Mom, seriously, can you please give me some privacy?
Sophie, what's this about a downhill skating event? Do you want to die?
It's none of your business. Ugh, Mom was so controlling. She wouldn't let me wear the clothes I wanted or even fangirl over the idols I liked. Feeling so wronged, I called Miss Clark to let out this frustration. She was so understanding, saying how adults sometimes make mistakes too, and my mom was in the wrong this time. Then said I should sign up for the skating event, as I was young and therefore I should fight for my dreams. I wish Mom understood me like you do. You must be a wonderful mom. Your children are so lucky. She fell silent for a moment, then told me that as much as she wanted to be a mother, but she was divorced and had no kid. Adopt me then.
I'd rather be your daughter than my mom's." Then she gently smiled at me. Thanks to Miss Clark, my stuffy home life felt a bit better. While at school, thanks to her matchmaking, Dylan and I were now a couple. Yay! Rebecca thus gave me dirty looks all the time in class. But tough luck, sweetie. And our 1-month anniversary finally arrived. Today, Dylan's taking me out for sushi. Yum! But I'd only had one bite when a familiar figure rushed over. My mom glared at Dylan, then dragged me home. "Don't you ever talk to that awful boy again! You hear me? That kind of troublemaker is nothing but a bad influence. Cut ties with him ASAP!" This was insane! But thankfully, Dylan overlooked my mom's craziness, and we continued dating secretly. But then one morning, I texted and called Dylan a bunch of times, but there was no reply. Was something wrong? We just had the best date last night, but now, nothing. I rushed to school, searching for Dylan, worriedly asking everyone if they had heard anything from him, when Rebecca suddenly approached me. "Dylan could have died thanks to you. Seems like you and your crazy mom are cut from the same cloth." Okay, so turns out that after Dylan dropped me off after our date, he ended up in an accident. Luckily, he wasn't hurt too bad, but he was convinced someone had tampered with his brakes while he made a quick stop at the 7-Eleven near my house. And, yep, that must have been my mom, since he also saw her leave the store. How could she do that? She's ruined my life! Dylan broke up with me right after that. No way was I staying anywhere near her. So I packed a bag and fled to the one place I felt safe. And here I am, at Miss Clark's house. Peace and quiet at last. Oh, what's this? She looked so pretty when she was young. I turned a few more pages, then... Huh? Why does this man resemble my dad? Then I saw a scribble. Janet, Bob, forever. Huh? It was my dad. So she wasn't just his old friend. She was his ex. A thought suddenly popped into my head. Could she be my real mom? Maybe Dad let me transfer to her school so we would be reunited. Oof, forgive me. I must have watched too many TV dramas. But honestly, how amazing would it be if she was my mom? My real mom was such a nightmare. I went to the kitchen to see Miss Clark preparing dinner and couldn't help but blurt out, "Mom?" She got extremely emotional, then pulled me in for a warm embrace and called me her daughter. Suddenly the phone rang. It was Dad. He told me to go home immediately or he'd stop my allowance. Miss Clark told me not to be worried and just go. But I had to show some attitude to let Mom know that I wouldn't back down easily. So from then on, as soon as I was home, I just went straight to my room without even looking at Mom. And also every time she said anything annoying, I kept replying with, "What's wrong with you? My teacher told me to do so. Stop overreacting." And you know what happened next? Yep, Mom called Dad. Again. I reported it to Miss Clark, as usual, and she told me that if I wanted Dad to stop listening to Mom, I had to tell him she was having an affair. What? Wasn't that too much? Did Miss Clark still have feelings for my dad? Was she only being nice to me so she could worm her way back into his life? After that, I didn't talk to her as much, and tried to avoid her at school, just to be safe. But then one day after lessons, I found her waiting by my locker, looking all glum. She told me it was her birthday, but like every other time, she had no one to celebrate it with. If only you'd be by my side this year, my daughter. So I agreed to go for dinner with her, and then for convenience, I made reservations at Mom's restaurant. Maybe this wasn't such a bad idea. I mean, Miss Clark might be able to talk some sense into her, right? They could even actually get on. But as soon as Miss Clark walked in, Mom's face dropped. "Janet, what are you doing here? Our restaurant is fully booked. Please leave." The two argued back and forth for a while, and I couldn't stand it anymore. "Why are you so rude, Mom? She's my teacher." Mom then stormed off in a rage while Miss Clark and I just ignored her and carried on with our birthday plan. But as she was eating the baked lobster dish, she suddenly turned a funny color, then threw up. We took her to the emergency room, and the doctor said this was down to Ipecac, a vomit-inducing medicine. Who else is to blame? How could my mom be so cruel? Sophie, I'm fine. I'm sure your mom meant no harm. Mom looked furious and rushed over to Miss Clark. I had to pull her back, and then I told her she didn't deserve to be my mom. She was speechless and burst into tears. But it was too late. I announced I would move out of the house and stay with Miss Clark instead. So I went home and packed straight away, then left. But Mom wouldn't quit following me that whole week. It's super annoying. So Miss Clark came up with a new idea. We should move somewhere where Mom wouldn't find us. Huh? Was it a bit too sudden? But this was the only way I could be rid of my freaky mom. So we moved to a little house in the suburbs. Miss Clark took good care of me and completed all of my school transfer procedures. The first few days were so much fun. We had a really good time together. However, I started to notice odd little things, such as she fed me pizza every single day. Pizza and pizza only. She also insisted I wear these worn old clothes and called me Dumpling? What a weird nickname. At first I just wondered why she did that, but then it started to bug me, so I asked her to stop. To my surprise, she started crying. Looks like I was stuck with this awful nickname. Things at home seemed off, and the new school was just as terrible. From the very first day, I again became the target of the mean girls. But one day, as they tried to stop me passing them, one of their faces suddenly turned pale. Huh? Isn't that Alice's gross old shirt? Alice who? You know, Alice. The dumpling. She wore the exact same shirt with the word smart printed on it. I remember this vividly as I used to laugh at how brazen of that stupid girl for wearing a shirt saying smart. My God, even the trace of my cigarette butt on its flap? It's still there? But she's dead. Then they all looked at each other in fear and ran away. Huh? Chills ran down my spine. I didn't know who this Alice was, and I didn't want to. The only thing I knew was I needed to get out of this place immediately. So I rushed home to pack my things before Miss Clark got back from work, but it was too late. Dumpling? Where are you going? You have to stay with Mommy. Then she quickly locked the door, dragged me inside, and started acting like a psychopath. Eat up, my dumpling. Why are you so sad? It's seafood pizza, your favorite. I'm sorry I didn't let you eat it before, but now you can have it all you want. I'll buy this for you every day. Panicked, I didn't know how to hold out against this insane woman when someone kicked in the door. It was Dylan, followed by my parents.
Sophie, here you are, our baby.
Oh, thank good God. I pushed Janet away and ran straight to them. But how did they find me?
I decided to look into the case of my broken brake again, as a few days after the accident, I came back to that 7-Eleven, and a cashier asked me if my mum came home safely the other day, as she saw a woman claiming to be my mum struggling by my motorcycle, saying there's some problem with it. That sounded way too fishy, so I asked to check the store's CCTV footage. And the culprit was not your mum as we all thought, but her.
Huh? Why? She helped matchmake us. Why would she want to harm you?
I don't know. Maybe she wants everyone to misunderstand and blame your mother. Luckily, our phones have still been sharing locations ever since we were dating, so I found you in time.
Many thanks to you, Dylan. My father angrily looked at Miss Clark.
Janet, things between us ended decades ago. Please get a hold of yourself.
Poof! How ridiculous! Who do you think you are to assume this is about you? Dumpling is mine. She's my daughter, and she's staying with me. She broke down crying, and then admitted it all. From damaging Dylan's motorbike to putting emetic medicine in her own food to fool people. I've tried everything. I can't believe it. How could a gentle person like her do such things? After the truth was revealed, everything gradually got back on track. I went back home, but still, my mind constantly wandering back to her and why she did it. Until one day, I came home from school and was surprised to see that woman sitting on the couch in our living room having a coffee with Mom. To be honest, I was a bit frightened at the sight of her, but she didn't look as unstable as before. It turned out that she'd just returned from a psychotherapy unit. She'd been suffering from her mental health since Alice, her daughter, passed away. Alice, aka Dumpling, was a stubborn teenager, just like me, and due to the strictness of her mum, she once left home in a temper and never came back as she got in a terrible car accident that night. So, as soon as Miss Clark saw me, she subconsciously wanted to turn me into her daughter to fix her past mistakes.
Sophie, I'm truly sorry for the pain I caused you. I let my grief consume me, and as a result, I refused to accept how dark a place I was in. Teenagers are complicated, but please try to be more open-minded and show them love the correct way. Sophie's a good kid, and I don't want you making the same mistakes I did.
And so everything ended in a good way. Although my mom and I still sometimes argue, now we both know how to control it. I also learned to share things with her so that we became closer. And now, when she calls Dad, it's no longer to snitch on me, but it's to talk about how our days went. By the way, I don't have to go on secret dates anymore either. There's my Prince Charming. How many times have I told him not to rev up the engine?